Alright, we are trying out the Glisser. I've not been too impressed with her here, but our first match here is one that in theory would have been great if Glisser showed up. So we are up against Golgari Cat combo. So this wants it's basically a food, kitchens, oven, cauldron familiar deck that wants to get two cauldron familiars. Excuse me. So yeah, we check here with Valky and we see nothing, but this is very clearly the fact that there's Gilded Goose here and we see an oven, that's true, they get that back. Dredge's Insight is a really good include in this deck. Right, so with that in mind, we don't have blue mana, so we're kind of stuffed for a little bit here. I went early Valky to do a check on their deck, see what they had. Dredging again. Nothing found there, so that's a pretty good start. So basically, this deck sets up a combo where Ygritte is on the field, turning everything into a food. And if you can get a cat in your graveyard, a Cauldron Familiar on the field, they can sack to each other infinitely to infinitely drain. The indicator for this immediately was the fact that we saw a Gilded Goose. I think that this is literally the only deck that still runs Gilded Goose. Trail of Crumbs comes down. I probably should have fought over that. That was a really good spell to gain advantage. I'm going to go here with the Unmoored Ego. They go for Cash Grab, Mill. And they find a Ygritte. So, I'm going to name the Cauldron Familiar here because it is part of the combo. Ygritte is a big beater, but without the full effect of their combo, without the actual combo effect, if you look at their deck, literally they're all in on this. So once Ygritte is... We've got to answer 3 Ygrittes, and you know, we run board wipes, bounce. It does have ward. Scavenger's Talent is the second one I would name, because that's the alternate way they can win by just milling us out by sacking stuff. Right, so let's throw down this Niv and get a reload on, gain 5 life. Reload! We get an awkward reload here. So yeah, this is one of the matches where I said that Vraska would have been fantastic, because if we could resolve her, they can't sack the cats until they get rid of her if we have mana up. So they swing in here. I'm not going to trade here because Ygritte gets bigger with everything being sacrificed, so the oven sacking the goose here does result in them making a food. With everything going on here, I actually want to cast this Vraska. And I'm going to actually use her as a effect to sack her. So sadly, since we didn't have the mana, this didn't work. They're going to dig. They go for Fatal Push, killing Vraska. So we have to sack Niv now to kill the Ygritte, which they sacrifice. They can bring back with the Scavenger's Talent, but we do have a Bring to Light for a board wipe here. So they end step, sack free food, return Ygritte. They do a ton of milling here. Yeah, so this is a turbo combo deck you've got to really be prepared for. So I choose the Maelstrom Pulse here to take out the Scavenger's Talent. So, because the mill is going to come back and bite us. I'm going to set up this biotech as a potential ward target, but they do have removal, which is really unfortunate for us because the Trail of Crumbs only digs for a permanent, so that means that was their blind draw into a Fatal Push, which helps them get us down to 9. With no other option here, we're going to have to Bring to Light and go for the board wipe. I don't think there's any other way to do this. So yep, we'll go Supreme Verdict, board wipe. They'll sack to make more food. They can dig very reliably here for another Ygritte. Trail of Crumbs is so good in this deck. Maybe it would have been better to hit the Trail of Crumbs if I'm honest. With our current setup here, I think, considering my options, I think our best bet is probably to, the sacking food to pump Ygritte to go for lethal. They dig, find another oven, dig, find another Scavenger's Talent. Yeah, it's so good here for them. We're going to make them put more mana into this because then at least they can't level it fully up. They shock in a land. Swing in for 8. In response, we will Bring back Valky. Interesting choice here by me. We check... Oh, it's to check their hand. Yep. Right, we go down to 4. And this is where my inexperience with this matchup is going to cost us the game. So, of course, I'm aware of Yigra's static ability that turns everything into a food. So I grab Supreme for the hexproof. However, I suddenly forget that Beseiju is colorless because the channel lands were a mistake, and I still maintain that these cards were a mistake. They don't see as much play currently, but I still think that channel lands were a huge problem. We Maelstrom Pulse here to take out the Scavenger's Talent to prevent reanimation, but as I said here, we ultimately play it out. So, kind of an inexperienced bit on my part. I probably... Yeah, definitely bolster up here. I should have targeted the Trail of Crumbs before this. They sack a food here and get to dig. I just call it here because I'm like... Honestly, I was tilted and blown out by the fact that I misplayed so heavily into the Beseiju, reigniting my hatred for those cards. So, this... We need unmoored egos, basically, and Vraska. Vraska is Graveyard Haze good. I do feel I need to work on this sideboard, though. A lot of this sideboard is teched for the Phoenix dominance, which Phoenix has kind of dropped off now, with the mono-black hate that we've been seeing. This hand is dependent on drawing a land, but I'm okay with that. So, yeah, let's see what they go for. But they have the turn on Fortsies, which is very unfortunate for us. So we are dependent now on drawing a land. We do, so we'll put that tap land. This, by the way, this pilot was clearly very experienced with this deck. I just realized while watching this, everything here is actually fully art extended. No, wait, that's how it appears if you fight against it? I don't know. But I will say, the reason I thought that this was so insane, I'm going to Vanishing Verse the Trail of Crumbs this time, because I've learned my lesson here. We don't want them gaining insane value and card advantage off it. Then I'm going to Tyrant Scorn the Goose. Yep, they sack it. Really probably should have thrown Vraska out onto the field, but I'm just scared of the... Right, there's a quick Yigra. So, let's just pass back. They play a Dredger's Insight. Okay. Before that resolves, I'm going to Back to Nature to just get rid of it so they won't gain the trigger of something leaving the graveyard. They find one Cauldron Familiar. And this is where I kind of threw the game here. So, they throw down the Gilded Goose and a Scavenger's Talent. So, in response, we'll... 2 lands and 2 spells, so we'll just take 2 spells, I guess. No, land and spell, because countering's not an option. And this is where our opponent does something that I did not even realize was a thing. And really, I should have thrown out the Vraska here to see if they'd be aware of it. I didn't realize here that you can hold the priority. So, they sack the Cauldron Familiar here to the Food for the Goose to mill themselves for 2. Then, holding priority, they constantly return Cauldron using full control mode. I was not aware of this. I was not aware this was a thing. So, ultimately, what this lets them do now is sack all of their food, still holding up another in activation, to mill over 10 cards. The minute they find a second Cauldron Familiar here, we've lost the game. There it is. I concede. Very well played. This person knew the deck inside and out. Alright, 5-color humans. This is a list which is very near and dear to my heart. I played Modern at the time of 5-color humans, so it was something that was very... Well, I never played it. I actually, at the time, was getting stomped by it a lot. But I really enjoyed playing against it. Our opponent plays a Knight of Dark Shadow, so we'll exile it. Randomly having stuff that dunks on life gain is interesting. I think this person might have run into the Angels matchup way too many times. Our hand is a bit slow here, but we'll just keep removing. As I said before, if you're up against tribal decks, your main strategy has to be remove everything. We'll throw down this Vraska here as a blocker. Our opponent is presenting the company, and there it is. 4 mana in a tribal deck and them not doing anything is pretty much an indication of it. Right, interesting. So a Menace, Night Shadow, and a Coppercoat. There's the Reflector Mage, Bouncing Vraska. Hopeful Initiate. Right, let's play the Ancient Cornucopia, and we'll Vanishing versus the Coppercoat Vanguard to gain life. Well, we can't gain life, but that's the best interruption of there. It takes 5 power off the board. Right, we're going down to 9. They clearly don't want to overextend, but they have something. Oh, another Cavern of Souls. Right then, I think we got a board wipe here. It's our best option. I'm going to go for the Supreme Verdict. I could go for Clarion, but there is a chance they have Brave the Elements, which would protect them from that board wipe. So, with that in mind, let's just pass back. There's an Adeline. Right, time for a reload and gain 5 life. Reload! We'll take the Helix for soul removal. Shock in. We can hold up this Tyrant Skull because it does actually kill Adeline. There's the Reflector Mage, so let's kill Adeline before that happens. Reflector Mage bounces Niv. Such a good card, Reflector Mage. I remember it being... was it banned from the standard, I believe? Okay, so here's a fun interaction. Vraska, I was going to get to use her thing here, but our opponent conceded. So what we were going to do is kill the Reflector Mage with the Helix, pay the 1, get a copy of Reflector Mage, bounce whatever creature they played, but they saw the writing on the wall. I am really enjoying Vraska in the deck. I'm wondering if I maybe need to go up a copy. Right, yeah, this is me juggling around. As I said before, tribal deck rules. Bring in all the removal. Don't let them establish a board. Target their lords. And just focus on surviving the early game. So yeah, we mulligan down to 5 here and find no removal. So this already looks terrible. So if they have a good curve here, because they kept an opening 7, this one's pretty... yeah, well, we pulled another Ancient Cornucopia, so maybe we can... oh, and they have the card that prevents life gain. Okay, so yep, our ace in the hole of stabilizing with life gain is gone. So let's see what happens. Coppercoat Vanguard. Did not find a land, so pass back. Okay. There's a Brutal Kafar, it's going to take away our biotech, so let's just get a land here. So if we can top deck a land to get the Niv, maybe we can work into something here. We don't find the land, so play the Ancient Cornucopia here, but I think we are just dead because this is 8 damage on the board and Niv won't block enough to survive. They don't have company. And if they flip the Brutal Kafar, it could take out... oh, there's Adeline. Yep, that's going to put us down to 2. And yep, we're not going to be able to survive that. Even if we do the Niv and replay. That's a great example here of why it's a handful of removal and nothing else. I take out one of the normal eyes here because we've seen Cavern of Souls. Honestly, that should have probably come out on our first sideboarding. But it does still hit company, which could be a big momentum swinger. And of course, we keep 1 copy of it. Okay, so I'm going to get this normalize online as fast as possible. Because I want to make sure. Alright, so we got it ready, but they have Cavern this time, so that's a bad play on my part. There's a Durin. So for those who don't know, this is basically Selfless Spirit for humans. So she can sack to give humans hexproof and indestructible. Blanking one of our board wipes. There's a Coppercoat Vanguard. Let's counter the Hopeful Initiate just to use it while they can't use anything there. 3 puts us down to 15. Cornucopia. Excuse me, I've got a bad cough at the moment. My cold has transitioned to a chesty tickle cough. We are down to 8 here, so we've got to cast a Culling Ritual here and see what they do. They did not pop Adeline, which is weird. So we'll play the Ancient Cornucopia and then we'll play the Biotech, gaining life up to 12. That felt like a misplay on their part. Why they didn't crack the soldier. So we'll just block the 1/1, well, the 2/1 here. And see what else they put. Yeah, because it gives hexproof and indestructible. So I'm just sitting here like, why? Why didn't you actually use it? So let's get some lands down here. We'll board wipe again. We're on 12 life, 1 card in hand. There's a Hopeful Initiate into an Adeline, into a land. Okay, so let's go for grabbing the Yorion here. Then we gain 4 life. Blink both of the cornucopias to reset so we can hold them up for a helix. I'm going to hold this Xander's Lounge as a way to just cycle a card here because we've survived the early game here. Oh, this is great. So, Brutal Kafar will take away... They don't know about this, so we wait till they attack. On attack, we will helix, gain a ton of life up to 23, use Yorion to blink here. Now we can block the Adeline, kill her, bring back the Ancient Cornucopias. We'll get rid of the Hopeful Initiate before we can take out the Cornucopias. And then we'll attack in, because now we can win this race, he says confidently. If they draw a couple of... Oh, they're going to prevent us from gaining life. That doesn't change, though, the fact we've got 10 more of a board presence. Vraska's Bargain's good. We find... Yep. Puts him down to 10. We can bring back the a land or our favorite little guy, the biotech specialist. They have a Destroy Evil. We can't counter it. So, let's do the damage to the Knight of Dusk Shadow here. Opponent's thinking about it. So, the reason I'm doing this is we can then use the Cosmic Rebirth with the Ancient Cornucopia's triggers, which will be free 7 life gained here, which even then, like I said, also if they attack in, which they do, we Cosmic Rebirth back, put Yorion back into hand here. We can just then do our trick again, make sure we tap the Cornucopias, blink them for a reset, and then just pass. Opponent takes no action, so we'll cycle in our end step. They probably have a company here. We've drawn so many lands, it's not even funny. But I think our opponent is in a similar boat. There's the company off the top. Finding Durin and Thalia. And there's a Thalia's Lieutenant. Alright, so the race, yeah, it's still not winnable here. We can kill him with any burn spell we can draw. There's a Niv off the top, so gain 10 life off these Cornucopias. Gotta love this Cornucopia card. Yeah, there's... Okay. There's up to 2. And they've got 1 draw to see what they get. I suppose a double... company into double bounce here. I'm not going to block. We're at 40 life here. Pretty safe. I'm not going to risk trading anything. It goes to our opponent. Opponent thinks about it for a bit. But yeah, as I said, although this board state does look different to what I said about keeping the board clear in tribal matchups, one thing to remember is we survived the early game by just removing everything that we could. And then we've stabilized with the Ancient Cornucopia. And like I said, you got to choose what you fight over here. Like I said, I'm just keeping my life total healthy. They have to have a very specific set of cards here, and they don't have it, so they just concede. Good game, sir. Okay, our third match here versus Rakdos Demons. Very classic match in this format. This hand has all 5 colors and potential offers either way. We get the turn 1 Fortsies. Let's see what our opponent takes here, because it's quite interesting. They take Valky, so I'm just going to run our Biotech. That's what we aimed for there with our land base. As I said before, if he eats removal, it doesn't matter. We have a Lander token. They Abrade, which is such a weird choice for them. I have no genuine idea why they went after the Lander token. It was genuinely perplexing. So, we'll play this land tapped, run out Joshua here. They're struggling on lands. I'm not going to loot here. We have our 5th land drop, which is great, and our colors covered. We can just let them keep going. Alright, we'll just put Yorion into hand here. Attack again with the Biotech. Yeah, they go for the Abrade. Must be aware that Yorion's going to come down. There's an unstoppable killer. We'll just Vanishing Verse that, so it's gone. We'll just run out of Yorion Hardcast. Goes to our opponent's turn. There's a second unstoppable killer. We will kill that once, and then we'll hold the Lightning Helix, and then just use that to get rid of it again. My guess is they kept this hand based on the interaction / unstoppable killer. There's the... Right, so we attack in here. They have to basically deploy a demon or animate the Mutavault. If they don't have a demon, they're just going to animate the Mutavault. So here's a trick. You can wait till the trigger is on the stack, then kill it. Because then it goes, when it gets to the trigger, oh, there's no demon, you're going to take 2, and they concede. So we got lucky there. Our opponent must have kept a very greedy hand, where they basically... They broke the rule of Magic. They kept a hand where, as long as I draw X, I'll be fine. And they did not draw X, which was obviously an additional land. This hand is sensitive to Fortsies, and of course they have it. The amount of 7 hands that have a turn 1 Fortsies in Pioneer is truly shocking. So, let's pass back. We can hold up this Izzet Charm if they try to deploy the house. I'm happy to take 15 here. There's the Unstoppable Killer. So, let's Helix that. As long as it has counters on it, we can deal with it. So, let's just pass back. Again, puts us down to 15. I'm fine. I'm going to fight over the house. Yep, there it is. So, let's counter the house. Play land. Play this Ancient Cornucopia. I'm going to Helix the Slasher before it loses its other card. And, of course, they Abrade, which means we don't have the mana. So we've got to play the Biotech to get a land here. And they top deck the Fortsies to take our Niv. Truly annoying. Literally makes me like so mad that the Fortsies always comes out on the turn before Niv comes down. Also, the double Fortsies is just truly infuriating. There's a Glisser, so I'm going to play that to bait out removal here. There's no way they don't fight over that. I'm going to make you counter that, which will buy us some time. There's a Shieldred, which is rough. If we can take a Shieldred, that would be great. I put Yorion into hand here and play the land. Hold back. Let's see what they get here. Second house. So yeah, we've pretty much got one draw now to find an answer, and the land is not that answer. So it's unfortunate. If we could have killed the Shieldred with the Vraska and stole it with her ability, it would have been great. This is why I'm having trouble with Vraska. Every time I've played her, I've always felt like I needed one more mana or one more card. I'm not mulliganing because what will happen is we're going to get turn 1 Fortsies. And if I go down to 6, we're already losing. So, yep, there's the duress. I am genuinely tempted to go back to a full playset of Leyline of Sanctities just for Fortsies decks. Like, not even for burn anymore, because it doesn't even do anything versus mice, but man, I would love to just be like, oh yeah, you got 6 copies of Fortsies in your hand. I guess you can't use them. Alright, so, shock in here. Play Niv. We have not seen an edict from them. We've seen a lot of targeted removal. So let's put a little bit of faith in the fact they might not have it. So, they're going to attack in here. Should have attacked in with both, honestly. We're going to lose half our life here, but now we're going to get some major payback. So, Deafening Clarion. Choosing both modes. Gaining 2 life in the Ancient Cornucopia. Stopper's going to come back. But we can attack with this Niv now and put us back up to 16. We'll go down to 14 here. We can cycle land if we need to. We also have the Clarion flashback in case they get anything good on their turn. Second slash is pretty good. Jump starting this Clarion though is going to mean that there's nothing to do. again with the lands, so we'll just discard one of these lands, hold a cycling land to loot, and again swing in, puts him down to 7. They abrade. In response, we'll just loot a land away here. Bring to Light's perfect. There's a Shieldred. We don't have blue mana, which is something which is terrible, because I realize I don't have blue mana. Oh my god. I'm going to put Yorion into hand here and just pass back, but they clearly don't draw anything. I was so excited and I was like, oh, I don't have blue mana. Alright, so we are here with a bounce deck, and this match only went 1 game, and genuinely I don't know why. So if you see here, we have to mulligan down to 6. Gonna get rid of the Helix here, and then play a tap land. So I'm playing towards a biotech, and I see a Hopeless Nightmare, so I'm gonna get rid of Vraska, because honestly, this deck is just mostly, this deck doesn't usually make a lot of creatures. Let's get the Ancient Cornucopia down, which can be a game changer against this deck, because a lot of their gameplay is just incidental damage. But then we start seeing the Restoration of a Ganjo, which is weird. So, I play an Ancient Cornucopia, so we got a ton of life we can gain now. They ramp with this, so this is an Orzhov list. They play Corpses of the Lost, which is a card I hadn't seen before, which will give haste and other stuff, and they can bounce it back. But I'm going to get rid of this with the Vanishing Verse first. Alright, so we're going to play Joshua, gain life, let him stay on the board. Joshua's a pretty good blocker, and also he can't really be dealt with by the Nowhere to Run, I believe the enchantment is called. They go for a Scroll Shift, so I'm going to counter that. I mean, no more lives is getting discarded either way. This way at least they have to do it again, basically. On our turn, we don't really get anything, so I'm going to flip Joshua, even though we have nothing in the graveyard, because they've got a chump blockers on the ground now that bounce Josh, so we need to just try and go over the top here. Black Mage's Rod, Nurturing Pixie, bouncing the Hopeless Nightmare, replay Hopeless Nightmare. 2 damage is really good, but with a double Cornucopia setup here, we're just, yeah, we've got it sorted for a while. So I'm going to, here's my plan. I put Yorion into hand. I'm going to attack in and see if they trade. They do not, so I will use this now to kill their Pixie, because I want them to discard me next turn. I don't want to give them the Hopeless Nightmare looting, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Pixie, so that when a Ganjo, one of their Ganjos, triggers, they can bring back the Pixie, bounce the Nightmare, as I figured they would, and force us to discard the Yorion. Which is great. So now Yorion's available for the Phoenix flip, which can buy us some more stuff if we need to. We do find Niv-Mizzet Supreme though, so what I'm actually going to do is, I'm looking at the board state here, and I actually decide I like Vraska more. I kind of forgot she was in the graveyard, so we'll let that go. And then we'll play Niv-Mizzet Supreme, gaining 10 life. Yeah, 10 life, you heard me that. Now we can flashback anything from our graveyard of every card we draw. And flashing back removal to then buy stuff will be pretty good here. Our opponent flips their Sagas, concedes, and then they drop from the entire match, which I don't know why. Maybe they were just frustrated with the draw, but it didn't feel like we were, yeah. Alright, last match for this video, and you'll hear me sipping a lot because this one is a long one, and I still have a tickly throat. So we have the curse here of an opponent playing a complicated, slower, grindier deck, and them being a relatively slow player. I choose to put the basic on the bottom here because we have 3 sources of red mana here. This was pretty scary because I saw Yorion and I was like, uh-oh, this could be control list. They go to Dimir and they don't do anything, which makes me think, yeah, 100% this has got to be a control list. But then they tap out on 3, so I'm confused. So I'm going to shock in, present like I'm using something here, but I can use the Indafa Triumph to cycle. I'm thinking this could be flash, this could be anything. We don't have green yet, so we've got to put a Triumph down for that. I don't want to play into potential counter magic here, so this is kind of like a wait and see who blinks moment. I'm going to throw down the cornucopia because it's not essential, and if I lose this to a counter spell in a control matchup, my life total is not that big of a deal. Like, a Teferi Ultimate doesn't care if you're on 1 life or 100 life. They go up to 6 mana and play a Yorion into a blank board, which makes me think they don't have anything, but I also know that they probably don't have too much. So I'm going to use this Cosmic Rebirth as a counter check. They clearly have something because they didn't immediately do it, but most of their 1 mana counters is like a pay free or a non-creature counter, so we'll get a Niv down.
Reload!
Not the best reload, but it's pretty solid here. I am going to wait and see what they do. I'm thinking this is a Dimir flash list that just has not found its flash at the time. I now know this is a normal this town ain't big enough Dimir list. So opponent goes in. I think it's a board wipe, so I go with sure, I will block, and then out comes Nowhere to Run, which will shrink our Niv so we can't actually do anything with it. In response, we're going to let that go. We can still kill it with the Is It Charm. So what else do they play on their turn? They go for this town ain't big enough, so in response we'll use this to kill the Yorion. Gain 2 life from it. Honestly, them bouncing a Mana Rock's not the biggest problem here. So let's play a land tapped, redeploy the Ancient Cornucopia, throw down the Biotech Specialist. Probably dies to Nowhere to Run, but like I said, anything here is pretty good. There's a Fatal Push. I could normalize this, but I'd rather fight over a more impactful spell. They throw down a Field of Ruin, and this is always fun when we run into these decks. These decks love to basic land check you. And I'm hovering over the lander token there because I'm like, dude, come on. I literally have 4 of a creature that searches basic land types. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to show you how little I care about this. I'm going to actually land a token, thin out my deck with a basic, thank you for the help, and then you're going to destroy that land. I'll grab another basic and still be able to hold up this No More Lies. So if you try to do anything huge, I let Narset go, see what they go for here. They go for the down tick. They whiff on the down tick, which is kind of bad for them. I'm going to untap here. Bring to Light's pretty good. So, bringing to Light here. They probably have Edict effects, so Supreme doesn't really ding too good, but I think our best bet is just get more card advantage. This is a game of attrition, and the more resources we have, the better.
Reload!
Oh, need to take another sip. I'm using the Molten Collapse because the Vanishing Verse is more valuable versus their Nowhere to Runs, their Momentum Breakers, their Omen of the Seas, the stuff they want us to leave alone, basically just to grind them advantage over time. Yeah, see, look, Hopeless Nightmare. We'll discard a board wipe. Like, let's be real here. That's not going to do anything. Also, you're not going to grind us out in an attrition war because we literally have a cornucopia that's gaining us life every spell we cast. So we'll discard 2 with this Joshua, draw 2. Unmoored Ego and Valky. Right, they trigger Hopeless Nightmare here, dig in for an answer, but also triggering Revolt. So they then immediately go for the push here. I consider my options, then realize that I'm going to hit him down to 14, I'm going to hardcast a Valky. Valky comes in and they just instantly concede. I'm assuming they didn't have much in the way of Planeswalker removal. So this is going to be more of a counter war and an attrition based war. So board wipes need to come out. Vraska doesn't really have any targets. We need to be careful though. I'm noticing that like our creature count is very low. So we are running into the no win con control area right now. As I said, the key things when you come up against one of these bounce attrition decks is you need it's a resource race, so you need to use your reloads with Niv-Mizzet and other stuff to buy time. One of the other key things you really need to do is you've got to hit any kind of life gain. 9 times out of 10, this deck will literally, as you saw there, their win condition is either the Yorion or blinking or replaying the Hopeless Nightmare over and over again. We're on a mulligan, and unfortunate we got rid of the Bring to Light here. I'm expecting Fort Caesars to have come out of their sideboard here. So player a land tapped. I'm going to set up for a Vanishing Verse early here. They have an unlicensed hearse, which is weird to me. I'm trying to remember. I think like we saw. Did they see? They didn't see Supreme, so I have no idea. They're going to down tick. I'm going to Vanishing Verse that immediately just to get rid of it. One of the reasons why I want to hit that now is if we leave it to when they untap, they could just this town it. And like I said before, bouncing a Nissa, Narset, sorry, not Nissa, a Narset over and over again is really solid. Storm Chaser's Talent. This is one of the scary cards because this sets up one of their loops. We'll take care of the token right now. Like I said before, they don't have a lot of threats, so anything we can answer is pretty good. We'll shock in. We can use this bargain in the end step here. Yeah, so one thing you'll notice by the end of this game, I'm checking the clock because I don't think our opponent was used to the hearse or things that require additional effort. Like, you'll see so many pauses where, like, they clearly think that it's just going to pass, and it just doesn't. That's pretty rough. So, I'm going to take a land and a Scorn. Scorn can at least hit the thing here. I'm going to use Supreme here. This is because he has protection from the No More Lies. But also, it's me saying that, alright Arena, they found their graveyard hate card, so you gave me the one card in my deck, the 1 in 80 that cares about the graveyard. They can't know where to run it, so they've got to use the Momentum Breaker. Yep, there's a Momentum Breaker. And they hit the Forties, which tilts me tremendously because that must have been their draw for the turn. I was playing around a negate effect, and of course they draw into the second Forties. They haven't drawn a single extra card, and they still managed to get double Forties. Well, not double Forties, just single Forties. Truly frustrating. Alright, we'll just grab our Yorion, pass it back. There's a lot of dead air in this fight. Yeah, there's an Ashiok. So ultimately, I'm going to concede to that because they're going to win off that. And I honestly am just teed. Like, I don't know if this person was intentionally doing this, but look at the pause here between OK and things. So this is at 2 times speed, by the way. So our opponent has gone into another match, has clicked OK, and is thinking about their opening 7. This is me checking the count. I will point out that how frustrating this match was because by the end of it, I believe there's an 8-minute timer difference. And this is something I want to say. If the timer's a thing on Arena, why is the rope a thing? Like, the rope is so unintuitive. Like, how does... that's a rant for another time. But our opponent is finally in it, so let's keep going. We're just going to slowly deploy here. They have a Colligan Racket. Racket. We'll drop down a Biotech. Like I said, 5 mana is the key goal here. Clearly they got a... Oh, there's an Ashiok. And they mill, and we of course hit 2 Bring to Lights. Of course they do. So I'm immediately getting rid of that Ashiok before they mill us anymore, because apparently Arena is... yeah, I couldn't believe that. I'm like, 2 Bring to Light? Are you serious? Alright, so they're going to go for the Field of Ruin here because they need black mana. So we'll use them for ramp. So they take this. We will grab a green. They go for nowhere to run. So in response, we'll use the lander token, get a bit of damage in. We lose the biotech, drop a land. I consider the K command here, but they draw a card even if that leaves. So what I'm going to do is, I can Valky next turn, so I've got to play around baiting them. So they've got 2 mana open, which could be a this town ain't big enough. So in response, I'm going to rebuy the biotech and make them discard, see if it's a counter spell. They have something. That goes in. They discard land, so I'm going to back to nature because it's an instant and see if I can bait out their... Yep, there's this town ain't big enough to bounce and draw a card. Now we can play a Valky with no interruption. Let's plus again. Thunderclap Trainer and Rakshas's Bargain is perfect. Like 2 card advantage spells off of Tybalt. I couldn't have asked for 2 better draws here. Opponent's having a consideration. Stormchaser's Talent. Bit of Triumph, paying life. Relic to draw a card. Fortsies. It's fine. Rakshas's Bargain. I'm going to take this town ain't big enough, because with the Stormchaser's Talent, they're very close to setting up the loop. So let's make sure they can't. And we can also check their hand here. So 1 Ashiok and 1 Shieldred is kind of like their win cons here. I'm not going to deploy here because I want to Rakshas's Bargain in the end step. And because they're in the exile zone, you can do nothing about them, Dimir discard player. And we can play the Offspring for the Thunder Trap if we wanted to. Yep, opponents on 13, we're on like 20 minutes. They're just considering, playing a Yorion. And blinking their board. Apparently that required. Okay, yep, stuff comes back. In response, we'll just use the bargain right now. Yeah, we'll get rid of the counter spells. Like, they're not going to do much here. Niv off the top is beautiful, so we'll hit that. Veto is a solid answer to any of their annoying spells. We can also play... So I'm going to put... They have double ways to kill Niv, but they have to use a ton of resources. They Fear of Isolation here. And they go for the Momentum Breaker. We will veto the Momentum Breaker, so they can't force us to sack the Niv. This is a very close race in terms of life. And apparently our opponent is mad that we've done that. There's a relic to draw a card. They're not going to attack you and they don't have mana to trigger anything. So, with that in mind, I think our best bet here is to push damage. Because it's a 2-turn clock. So, let's Vanishing Verse the Isolation, return Yorion to hand, then we can Dome in for 6. Then if we play the Biotech, that's Edict Protection and incidental 2 damage. So we can pass back, see what they want to do here. So they kind of have to deploy all of their stuff here. So yeah, here's a nowhere to run. What does that target? Hits Niv. Second nowhere to run. Hits Niv again. Okay. And a third nowhere to run, because of course. So we'll crack the Biotech Lander token to put him down to 4. Yep. So we can Thunder trap trainer to dig for something if we don't find anything here, but we find a Niv off the top, which is perfect. So they've missed it. Okay, we don't have enough to do both here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the biotech and hold up. So what we can do is now, if they try to kill biotech, we pop the lander token. If they try to fort seize us to get rid of the helix, we can deal with that. This puts them down to 2. So their whole board now has to come out to blink us here, and we have them dead to rights because everything they can blink here will kill our board. But we're literally holding a lightning helix and a bring to light to tutor a second lightning helix in our hand. So even if they have a counterplay, they can't really do anything. They play the 4th nowhere to run. I'm not sure why. Yeah, we're just going to block. You can't get through. They play another Storm Chaser's talent. And yeah, like I said, their slow playing antics here have annoyed me a little bit, so I decided to be like, sure, you can have this. So I'm gonna just do a little thing to indicate how dead they were. I'm gonna tutor for the helix, hold full control, and put another helix on to be like, guy, you could have ended this like 5 minutes ago. I don't know why you played that out, but still, good game, good game.